Hello all. You may be aware that Mr. Faizur Rahman is Secretary General of the Islamic Forum for Promotion of Moderate Thoughts. His article on Palestine has appeared in International Outlook. I read it for your information. Please listen to it and pass it on to as many people as you can. Genocide or not, stop the massacre of Palestinians. In the final analysis, even if the quibbling over the use of the term genocide is ignored, it cannot be denied that what Israel is doing in Palestine and Lebanon is a crime of horrific proportions that needs to be stopped for not just being a blatant violation of international law, but also for making a mockery of the Bible by Faizur Rahman, 29 December 2024. On October 25 this year, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, issued a grim warning that the darkest moment of Israel's war is unfolding in northern Gaza as the Israeli military is subjecting an entire population to bombing, siege, and starvation. Turk urged world leaders to stop the coming genocide because under the Genocide Convention, the state parties also have the responsibility to act to prevent such a crime when risk becomes apparent. His assessment was justified within a week when 15 UN and humanitarian organizations, including the WHO, the UNDP, the UNHCR, the UNICEF, and Oxfam, revealed how hospitals attacked by Israel were almost entirely cut off from supplies, killing patients, destroying vital equipments, and disrupting life-saving services. Their statement also mentioned how schools serving as shelters were either bombed or forcibly evacuated, tents sheltering displaced families shelled, and people burned alive, and rescue teams deliberately attacked and thwarted in their attempts to pull people buried under the rubble of their homes. In conclusion, the 15 organizations warned that the situation is apocalyptic to the extent that the entire Palestinian population in North Gaza is at imminent risk of dying of disease, famine, and violence. Death is imminent also because on October 28, Israel's parliament declared the UN Relief and Works Agency UNRWA a terror organization and banned it from conducting any surveys inside Israel. To understand the scale of the impending cataclysm, it is enough to know that Israel's ruthlessness has been so brutal that it has displaced the entire population in Gaza. more than 2.2 million Palestinians are now living or about to die in an area of roughly 38 square kilometers in uninhabitable conditions. In North Gaza alone, an estimated 4 lakh civilians are hoping to survive amid destroyed buildings and shattered infrastructure. According to Turk, over 150,000 people have been killed, wounded, or missing since the assault on Gaza began. An article published in November 2024 in the Israel-based Plus 972 magazine contains this quote from 31-year-old Rahman, who fled the North Gaza town of Beit Lahia on foot with her 4 children on November 17. While leaving the town, I saw many bodies laying on the ground, and dogs were devouring some of them. I also saw men and women who were wounded, still alive, but drowning in their own blood, with no one to help them. This is not life. We are dying slowly. Toshiyuki Mimaki, co-chair of Nihol Idankyo, a grassroots movement of survivors of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs that won the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize, was so moved by the situation in Gaza that he fought back tears to recount how children are being covered in blood and living every day without food, having their schools destroyed, stations destroyed, and bridges destroyed. The people are wishing for peace. He said, but politicians insist on waging war, saying we won't stop until we win. I think this is true for Russia and Israel, and I always wonder whether the power of the United Nations couldn't put a stop to it. Is this genocide? The UN appears to be helpless, but its special rapporteur on the right to food, Michael Fakhri, in his July 2024 report on starvation and the right to food in Gaza, stated that there is clear evidence that Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people since at least October 2023. Fakhri blamed third-party countries and businesses for not only being responsible for the illegal supply of weapons for Israel's starvation campaign and genocide, but also being complicit for years in the illegal destruction of the Palestinian food and water systems and the illegal settlements of Palestinian territories. Fakhri's report confirms the finding of the International Court of Justice, which in its January 26, 2024 order had accepted that at least some of the acts and omissions alleged by South Africa, to have been committed by Israel in Gaza appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the Genocide Convention. Article 2 of the Genocide Convention lists 5 crimes and states that the commission of any one of them would amount to genocide if the intent is to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. The 5 crimes include A. Killing members of the group, B. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Scholar of Holocaust and genocide studies, Russ Sagan believes that Israel is guilty of all these crimes. For him, the assault on Gaza is a textbook case of genocide unfolding in front of our eyes. Former Israel Defense Forces IDF soldier and genocide historian Umar Barto agrees in an August 2024 article. He wrote that Israel was indeed acting with intent to destroy in whole or in part the Palestinian population in Gaza as much by killing, causing serious harm, or inflicting conditions of life meant to bring about the group's destruction. Another genocide researcher, Amos Goldberg, wrote, "Yes, it is genocide. It is so difficult and painful to admit it, but despite all that, and despite all our efforts to think otherwise, we can no longer avoid this conclusion." Pope Francis too is now convinced that what is happening in Gaza has the characteristics of a genocide. In a recent book, he called for a careful investigation to determine whether it fits into the technical definition formulated by jurists and international bodies. On December 5, Israeli historian Lee Mardechai released a report in which he alleged that what Israel is currently doing to the Palestinian population in Gaza is consistent with the definition of genocide. On the same day, an Amnesty International report alleged that Israel has carried out acts of prohibited under the Genocide Convention with the specific intent to destroy Palestinians in Gaza. Agnes Callamard, Secretary General of Amnesty International, said, "Our damning findings must serve as a wake-up call to the international community that this is genocide. It must stop now." Although Amnesty International's chapter in Israel disagreed with Callamard and refused to call it genocide, it nevertheless stated that the scale of the killing and destruction carried out by Israel in Gaza has reached horrific proportions and must be stopped immediately. The land grab. In the final analysis, even if the quibbling over the use of the term genocide is ignored, it cannot be denied that what Israel is doing in Palestine and Lebanon is a crime of horrific proportions that needs to be stopped for not just being a blatant violation of international law, but also for making a mockery of the Bible, which is otherwise exploited by the Jewish state to claim the whole of Palestine as its promised land. The Ten Commandments, found in the second and fifth books of the Old Testament, Exodus and Deuteronomy, among others, warn: you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, you shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Israel has violated all these injunctions with ghoulish relish, as if to say that even the Bible would be atheistically scoffed, as if it comes in the way of the plot to capture the entire Palestine. True to form, the Knesset, the legislature of Israel, on July 17, 2024, passed a resolution stating that it firmly opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state west of Jordan because it will pose an existential danger to the state of Israel and destabilize the region. Astonishingly, some commentators consider Israel's expansionist agenda as nothing more than political posturing by the power-made Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regime, as though a post-Netanyahu regime would enthusiastically work for the establishment of an independent Palestinian state on the 11,592 square kilometers allotted for it in UN Resolution 181 2 of the November 29, 1947. Among those hoping for this utopia are Hiba Husseini, former legal advisor to the Palestinian Peace Process Delegation, and S.C. Balin, former Israeli Minister of Justice. In the name of pragmatic realism, their undisguised one-sided proposal, the Holy Land Confederation as a facilitator for the two-state solution, seeks to fob off on the Palestinians a formula that endorses Israel's brazen land grab by reducing the territory allocated to the Arabs by the UN from 42.88% to just 22.5%. 6,205 square kilometers. The remaining 77.5% is magnanimously gifted to the Zionist state. Without wishful thinkers such as Husseini and Balin don't seem to understand that Israel would not accept anything less than 100%. In October 2024, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich described repeated attempts to reach a two-state solution as wrong-headed. He said there should be an unequivocal Israeli statement to the Arabs and the entire world that a Palestinian state will not be established. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sar agreed with Smotrich and said that Israel must abandon any policy based on concessions and put up a political iron wall against international efforts for a two-state solution. If the international community, especially the West, continues to display its unbelievable apathy, the entire population of Gaza would be wiped out in a short time, to say nothing about the concurrent land grab. Faizur Rahman is Secretary General of the Islamic Forum for the Promotion of Moderate Thought. He can be reached at the moderates 2020 at gmail.com and on Twitter at Faiz Engineer. I hope you will like this article. What do you think of the going on Israeli attitudes? Genocide. And what Israel is doing is nothing but genocide. And it is very unfortunate that the superpowers are keeping quiet. Thank you for your listening.